I really tried my best, please watch the video until the end.
The heavy stone doors slammed shut behind the heroes. Thick black darkness instantly swallowed all their torches. They still think this is just a simple boss fight. I slowly stepped out from the deep shadows of the room. The glowing cracks on my massive chest lit up the dark. My dungeon core pulsed with pure concentrated power. System alert, SSS-Rank Labyrinth Core is fully active. The lead knight raised his heavy shield toward my face. His metal armor rattled loudly in the freezing silence. He has absolutely no idea what kind of monster I am. I snapped my thick fingers with a loud cracking sound. The entire stone floor instantly vanished into thin air. Gravity pulled the heavily armored heroes down the pit. Sharp steel spikes rapidly grew from the falling walls. The mage desperately cast a bright blue levitation spell. I simply shifted the dungeon walls to block his magic. The heavy stone blocks crushed his magical energy shield. System log. Intruders have entered the deep death zone. A loud metallic clang echoed through the endless abyss. The paladin slammed his sword into the moving rock wall. Sparks flew as he tried to slow down his rapid descent. This pathetic attempt will not save him from my labyrinth. I flexed my massive muscles and absorbed the core energy. Glowing blue veins spread across my thick Minotaur skin. The temperature in the deep pit dropped to freezing cold. My deep voice rumbled like thunder through the dark shaft. The terrified archer fired 3 quick arrows at my head. I did not even blink as the wooden shafts hit my chest. They shattered into tiny splinters upon hitting my skin. System alert. Absolute physical defense is now active. I willed the dungeon floor to rise back up from the void. The sudden stop threw the heroes violently to the ground. Dust clouds filled the air around their battered bodies. Now they must face the true master of this giant maze. I stepped forward and the ground shook under my weight. The rogue tried to sneak behind me in the thick shadow. My internal dungeon sensors tracked his every single move. I shifted a stone pillar to hit him square in the chest. The kinetic force sent him flying across the entire room. He crashed hard into the wall and lost all consciousness. The remaining 3 heroes stared at me in pure horror. They finally realized they are trapped inside my own body. Every single brick in this place obeys my mental command. System notification. Fear levels have reached maximum. I opened my mouth and released a deafening, brutal roar. The sound waves physically pushed the heavy knight back. His heavy boots dragged across the rough stone surface. I need to test the new trap mechanics on these invaders. The ceiling above them started to slowly descend downward. Sharp metal blades spun rapidly from the lowering roof. The mage threw a massive fireball directly at my face. I opened a small portal in the air to absorb the flame. The hot fire energy fed directly into my central core. I redirected the absorbed heat to the floor beneath them. The stone tiles turned glowing red and burned their boots. The paladin desperately cast a healing aura on his team. This holy light feels incredibly weak inside my domain. System log. Holy magic effectiveness reduced by half. I summoned a pack of shadow wolves from my glowing cracks. 10 beasts formed from the dark mist and bared their fangs. They immediately charged at the burning and trapped heroes. The knight swung his heavy broadsword to block the wolves. He managed to knock 2 shadowy beasts into the hot wall, but the remaining wolves bit down hard on his metal armor. The sheer kinetic impact forced him down onto his knees. I watched them struggle with cold and calculated interest. My dungeon core requires more combat data to evolve fully. I raised my right hand and clenched it into a tight fist. The side walls suddenly shot forward like giant pistons. The heavy stone blocks slammed into the magical barrier. The blue shield cracked under the immense physical pressure. The exhausted mage fell to the floor, gasping for cold air. System alert. Enemy mana reserves are completely empty. I slowly walked toward the crushed and defeated party. Each step echoed loudly in the newly formed small room. The paladin raised his broken shield for one final stand. His arms shook violently from the heavy weight of the steel. I grabbed the top edge of his shield with my bare hand. The thick metal crumpled like cheap paper under my grip. I tossed the ruined piece of armor into the dark corner. A swift kick to his chest sent him crashing into the mage. Both men collapsed into a tangled heap of broken armor. My glowing core pulsed brighter as I absorbed their fear. I am not just a simple monster waiting in a final room. I am the very walls and floors that surround their bodies. System log. Labyrinth integration rate is now perfect. I commanded the floor to open up beneath their tired bodies. A smooth stone slide formed quickly inside the deep hole. They slid down into the dark holding cells of my dungeon. Heavy iron bars slammed shut to lock them in the dark cage. Now they will serve as pure energy batteries for my core. I turned around and walked back to the center of the hall. The giant room reconfigured itself into a grand throne room. Huge pillars of black marble rose from the solid ground. I sat down on the massive stone seat carved for a giant. The glowing cracks on my body slowly dimmed to a soft blue. System alert. New floor construction is now available. I closed my eyes and connected my mind to the lower levels. A new group of foolish adventurers just entered the gate. I can feel their heavy boots walking on my sensory nerves. They carry cheap iron swords and weak wooden round shields. I decided to change the layout of the first 3 floors. The straight hallways violently twisted into a complex maze. Dead ends appeared where open doors stood just a minute ago. The sudden shifting of stone echoed through the whole cave. I spawned a dozen armored skeletons in the main corridor. The undead soldiers marched forward with perfect discipline. System log, minion deployment successful on floor 1. The novice warriors panicked when the walls began to move. One of them blindly ran forward into a newly formed trap. A hidden pressure plate clicked loudly under his left foot. Heavy wooden logs swung down from the dark stone ceiling. The massive kinetic impact threw him back into his friends. They tumbled to the ground in a chaotic pile of cheap gear. I watched their desperate struggle through my magical core. This constant influx of fresh souls makes me much stronger. I focused my energy on the central heating vents below them. Thick, toxic green gas began to fill the narrow stone halls. The adventurers coughed loudly as the poison hit their lungs. System alert. Poison trap efficiency is at maximum level. Their movements became slow and incredibly clumsy in the fog. The skeletons easily cornered them against a solid rock wall. Blunt weapons smashed against their weak defensive formation. I do not even need to fight these weaklings with my own hands. My labyrinth acts as a perfect automated killing machine now. The last warrior dropped his sword and begged for some mercy. I simply opened a trapdoor directly beneath his shaking feet. He fell into the dark abyss without making a single loud sound. The remaining gear was quickly absorbed by the dungeon floor. System log. Resource extraction from intruders is complete. I need to prepare the deep levels for much stronger enemies. The Royal Guild will definitely send their elite strike force. I started to reinforce the main boss room with black obsidian. The dark glass-like stone formed a thick, protective outer shell. I placed hidden magical runes along the edges of the high roof. These symbols will drain mana from anyone who enters the room. My physical body grew larger as the dungeon expanded its size. The thick horns on my head curled into sharp, deadly weapons. System alert. Boss monster evolution is currently in progress. I felt my muscle fibers tearing and rebuilding much stronger. The raw power flowing through my veins felt absolutely divine. I punched the solid wall to test my new physical strength. The incredibly hard black stone shattered into tiny, sharp pieces. A massive shockwave rippled through the entire underground base. I am ready to crush the greatest heroes this world has to offer. Let them march blindly into the very center of my deadly domain. They will find only endless despair and pure kinetic destruction. System log. The SSS-Rank Labyrinth is fully prepared for war. I sat back on my dark throne and waited for the next fresh prey. The heavy stone doors at the entrance slowly creaked wide open. A bright flash of holy light pierced the thick dungeon darkness. The Supreme Commander of the Royal Guard stepped into the hall. He carried a massive glowing warhammer forged from pure silver. His golden armor reflected the soft blue light of my core veins. I could sense a massive pool of magical energy inside his heart. System alert. S-class human threat detected in the first zone. He did not come alone to face the horrors of my deep labyrinth. 50 heavily armed elite soldiers marched right behind his back. Their heavy steel boots moved in perfect synchronized formation. I smiled inside as the heavy entrance doors slammed shut fast. The commander raised his glowing hammer to illuminate the path. He ordered his men to form a tight defensive circle in the dark. They are incredibly well trained and ready for a brutal battle. Tactics mean absolutely nothing when the battlefield is alive. I shifted the floor tiles to separate the leader from his guards. A massive chasm instantly opened up right between the two groups. System log. Spatial division of enemy forces is fully complete. The soldiers shouted in panic as their commander slid far away. I summoned a thick iron wall to block their direct line of sight. The heavy metal barrier crashed down with a deafening, loud boom. The arrogant Golden Knight must face my power completely alone. I teleported my massive physical body directly into his new room. The displacement of air created a powerful kinetic shockwave. He braced his heavy boots against the floor to stop his sliding. His eyes locked onto the glowing blue cracks across my chest. I cracked my massive knuckles and prepared for a brutal execution. System alert. Final boss combat sequence is now fully engaged. He swung his silver hammer with incredible speed toward my knee. I did not dodge, but hardened my thick skin like solid rock. The heavy weapon bounced off my leg with a loud metallic ring. The intense kinetic recoil sent violent tremors up his right arm. He staggered backward and dropped his guard for a split second. I drove my heavy fist directly into the center of his gold chest. The enchanted metal armor caved in completely under my force. He flew across the room and crashed hard into the obsidian wall. His body slumped to the floor, completely devoid of any movement. I absorbed his massive magical energy into my glowing core. System log. S-class energy successfully integrated into core. The remaining 50 soldiers are now trapped in complete darkness. They will slowly become permanent fixtures in my endless maze. The heavy iron barrier completely blocked their escape route. Thick darkness instantly swallowed the 50 elite soldiers. They are now completely isolated inside my metallic stomach. System alert. Multiple hostiles detected in the dark zone. I commanded the floor tiles to shift in opposite directions. The sudden movement broke their tight defensive formation. Heavy steel boots slipped on the rapidly moving stone floor. I dropped the room temperature to absolute freezing levels. Frost quickly formed over their expensive royal plate armor. Their desperate shouts echoed through the pitch-black maze. I do not need to fight these ordinary foot soldiers directly. My labyrinth will efficiently drain all their stamina away. System log. Thermal energy extraction is fully operational. I spawned a series of heavy gravity plates beneath their feet. The invisible kinetic force pulled them violently downward. Their heavy armor suddenly weighed 5 times its normal mass. Several men collapsed instantly under the crushing pressure. The sheer physical strain knocked them completely unconscious. I absorbed their fading kinetic energy into my central core. I opened small vents in the walls to release sleeping gas. The thick purple vapor filled the enclosed space in seconds. The remaining soldiers dropped their heavy weapons in panic. They fell directly to the cold floor in a deep magical sleep. System alert. Mass capture of enemy units is now complete. I directed the dungeon routes to wrap around their limp bodies. They will serve as permanent mana batteries for my deep core. The massive influx of fresh energy forced my body to mutate. Thick obsidian scales rapidly grew over my heavy minotaur arms. My physical density increased far beyond any normal monster. I can feel the entire underground structure expanding outward. System log. Labyrinth expansion protocol has been initiated. The Royal Guild surface camp noticed the sudden magical spike. I sensed massive vibrations coming from the earth right above. They are setting up heavy siege engines outside my entrance. This pathetic attempt to breach my domain is highly illogical. I decided to bring the dungeon directly to their surface camp. I focused all my absorbed energy into the upper ceiling rocks. The solid earth above my labyrinth began to violently rupture. System alert. Surface breach sequence is currently active. Massive pillars of black stone erupted from the grassy plains. The kinetic shockwave flipped their heavy wooden catapults. Screaming soldiers were thrown violently through the dusty air. I pushed my main entrance gates straight out of the deep dirt. Giant obsidian walls formed a massive fortress on the surface. The bright sunlight hit my dark stones for the very first time. I sat on my deep underground throne and watched through the core. System log. Surface territory successfully annexed by dungeon. The surviving royal engineers desperately tried to regroup. They aimed a massive magical cannon directly at my new gates. A concentrated beam of pure fire energy slammed into the stone. The intense heat tried to melt my reinforced obsidian barrier. I simply shifted the kinetic absorption runes to the front wall. The magical fire was instantly sucked into the dark rock surface. I redirected that stolen heat into the ground beneath their feet. System alert. Thermal counterattack has been fully deployed. The soil beneath the heavy cannon turned into boiling hot magma. The massive siege weapon sank rapidly into the molten deep earth. Engineers ran away in pure terror from the expanding lava pool. I need to establish complete dominance over this new territory. I snapped my thick fingers to summon my elite vanguard units. Dozens of massive stone golems rose from the shattered ground. Their heavy bodies were forged from highly compressed granite. System log. Heavy assault golems deployed to the surface. The golems marched forward with terrifying mechanical precision. Each massive footstep created a small, localized earthquake. The royal knights charged forward on their armored war horses. They foolishly believed their lances could pierce solid rock. The steel tips shattered completely upon hitting the golem chests. The kinetic recoil threw the armored knights off their saddles. My stone minions simply walked over the fallen human soldiers. System alert. Enemy cavalry unit has been completely routed. I watched the chaotic battlefield with cold and calculated joy. This entire war is just a massive resource-gathering operation. A bright flash of purple lightning suddenly struck my front gate. The intense electrical discharge temporarily blinded my sensors. A supreme grand mage floated slowly above the ruined battlefield. He held a glowing staff carved from an ancient white dragon bone. His magical aura felt incredibly dense and dangerously unstable. System log. SS-class magical threat detected in Sector 1. He pointed his glowing staff directly at my main obsidian doors. A massive sphere of concentrated gravity formed in the high air. The sheer pulling force began to rip the stones from my fortress. I cannot allow this arrogant human to damage my beautiful walls. I channeled my core energy and teleported straight to the surface. My massive Minotaur body materialized right in front of the mage. The sudden air displacement created a violent sonic shockwave. System alert. Direct physical confrontation is now engaged. The Grand Mage desperately tried to cast a defensive blue shield. I did not give him any time to complete his complex magical chant. I swung my heavy fist directly through his forming magic barrier. The blue energy shattered like cheap glass under my kinetic punch. My knuckles slammed heavily into his chest with devastating force. The impact sent him flying backward through the thick dust cloud. He crashed violently into the remnants of his own ruined catapult. System log. Enemy magical defenses successfully neutralized. He struggled to stand up while coughing violently from the impact. His expensive silk robes were completely ruined by the heavy dirt. I slowly walked toward him with heavy and deliberate slow steps. The ground cracked under the immense weight of my obsidian scales. He raised his dragon bone staff to cast one final desperate spell. A massive beam of pure white holy energy shot directly at my face. I simply opened my mouth and swallowed the concentrated holy beam. System alert. Holy energy absorption process is fully active. The intense magical heat burned the inside of my thick throat, but my dungeon core instantly converted the damage into raw power. I exhaled a massive cloud of dark gray smoke from my nostrils. The Grand Mage dropped his ancient staff in absolute pure terror. He finally realized that magic is useless against my thick body. I grabbed him by the throat and lifted him high into the cold air. His legs kicked desperately as my thick fingers crushed his neck. System log. Target oxygen deprivation reached critical levels. I did not kill him because his knowledge is highly valuable to me. I slammed his weak body hard into the ground to knock him out. His limp form was instantly swallowed by the shifting dark earth. He will wake up chained inside my deepest and darkest prison cell. The remaining royal forces watched their strongest weapon fall. System alert. Enemy morale has dropped to absolute 0%. They dropped their weapons and started running in blind panic. I cannot let a single valuable resource escape my dark domain. I stomped my heavy hooves to trigger a massive violent earthquake. Deep chasms rapidly opened up all across the grassy escape route. The fleeing soldiers fell screaming into the dark, bottomless pits. My dungeon automatically caught them in thick, magical energy nets. System log. Maximum prisoner capture rate is fully achieved. The entire battlefield was now completely silent and very empty. I absorbed all the scattered weapons directly into the deep soil. This stolen metal will heavily reinforce my lower dungeon floors. I turned around and walked slowly back into my massive fortress. The heavy obsidian gate slammed shut with a deafening loud boom. System alert. Surface lockdown protocol is fully operational. I suddenly sensed a deep disturbance in my lower labyrinth levels. A squad of elite royal assassins managed to sneak past my gates. They used advanced cloaking magic to hide their heat signatures. They foolishly believed they could assassinate my core in secret. I simply smiled and activated the advanced internal security grid. System log. Stealth detection matrix is now fully operational. The narrow hallway sealed itself off with thick, heavy iron doors. The invisible assassins froze as the walls began to slowly move. I removed the oxygen from the sealed room at a very rapid pace. Their cloaking spells instantly failed as they gasped for air. I watched their pathetic struggle through my internal stone eyes. System alert. Enemy intruders neutralized via air deprivation. Their lifeless bodies collapsed onto the cold, hard stone floor. I directed a swarm of scavenger slimes to clean up the dead waste. The acidic creatures dissolved the assassins down to their bones. I used their enchanted daggers to upgrade my hidden floor traps. Nothing is ever wasted inside the perfect ecosystem of my maze. System log. Trap lethality increased by 15 total %. I descended back into the deepest core room of my massive maze. The Grand Mage was tightly chained to the freezing cold rock wall. The glowing runes slowly drained his massive magical energy pool. He weakly lifted his bruised head to stare at my massive face. I sat on my giant stone throne and crossed my thick muscular arms. System log. Interrogation mode has been successfully activated. I demanded to know the exact location of the royal capital city. He spat on the floor and completely refused to speak a word. Physical pain is highly inefficient for extracting deep memories. I extended a glowing dungeon tendril directly into his deep mind. The neural link completely bypassed his stubborn mental defenses. System alert. Direct memory extraction process is fully active. Images of a massive fortified city flooded into my central core. I saw their heavy magical shields and their elite royal army. They hold an ancient artifact capable of destroying dungeon cores. I instantly severed the painful mental link with the broken mage. He slumped forward, completely drained of all his active thoughts. System log. Enemy capital coordinates successfully downloaded. I cannot wait for them to bring that dangerous weapon to my gates. I must expand my underground routes directly toward their capital. This entire continent will soon become my personal massive maze. I channeled all the captured energy into my deep foundation level. System alert. Continental expansion protocol is now initiating. Massive tectonic shifts began to violently shake the deep bedrock. My thick roots tore through solid granite with absolute pure ease. Underground rivers were instantly vaporized by my intense heat. I carved massive new tunnels stretching for hundreds of miles. The earth groaned loudly under the pressure of my rapid expansion. System log. Subterranean travel network is rapidly building. I need a new specialized army to invade the human capital city. I focused my mind on the genetic templates stored inside my core. I combined Minotaur brute strength with the Shadow Wolf agility. Thousands of incubation pods formed quickly along the stone walls. Thick green fluid pumped directly into the glowing organic sacs. System alert. Advanced hybrid minion production is now active. The first batch of hybrid monsters ripped out of their slimy pods. They stood 8 feet tall with black fur and massive sharp claws. Their red eyes glowed brightly with pure malice and deep hunger. They bowed their heavy-horned heads in perfect absolute submission. I ordered them to march silently through the newly formed tunnels. System log. Vanguard strike force deployed to the target zone. The human capital city is currently completely unaware of my doom. They are busy celebrating the deployment of their Grand Mage army. They falsely believe their powerful magic will keep them all safe. I will shatter their pathetic safety illusion from the deep earth. My hybrid army reached the foundation layer of the royal castle. System alert. Enemy structural weak points are fully identified. I commanded my monsters to destroy the main load-bearing pillars. Massive kinetic strikes pulverized the ancient foundation stones. The entire royal palace suddenly dropped 10 feet into the earth. Screams of pure terror echoed from the nobles trapped up above. I forced the massive courtyard to collapse into a giant sinkhole. System log. Surface destabilization tactics executed perfectly. Royal guards desperately rushed to the massive gaping crater hole. My hybrid minotaurs leaped out of the dark dust to begin the war. They used their immense physical weight to crush the weak knights. Swords simply bounced off their thick, magically enhanced dark fur. I watched the massacre through the eyes of my loyal dark beasts. System alert. Capital city defense forces are rapidly falling. The human king deployed the ancient artifact from his deep vault. A blinding golden light pierced through the thick rising dust. Intense holy radiation instantly burned 3 of my hybrid units. Their bodies turned to gray ash before they hit the hard floor. I felt a sharp sting of real pain echo through my central core. System log. Critical damage sustained from unknown holy weapon. I cannot allow that dangerous weapon to remain in their weak grip. I concentrated all my spatial magic into one single black portal. A giant black rift tore open directly above the glowing artifact. My massive physical arm reached through the dark void of the rift. I grabbed the golden device and the weak king in one fast motion. System alert. High priority targets successfully acquired. I violently pulled them back into the safety of my deep core room. The portal snapped shut and severed the king from his weak guards. He dropped the heavy artifact and fell to his knees in pure shock. I picked up the glowing golden sphere with my thick black fingers. The holy energy tried to burn my skin, but I simply crushed it. System log. Divine artifact successfully broken and absorbed. The pure golden energy flowed directly into my massive dark veins. My dungeon core evolved beyond the simple limitations of Earth. I can now manipulate the fabric of space within my massive domain. The pathetic human king wept openly on the cold, hard stone floor. He finally realized that his entire kingdom now belongs to me. System alert. SSS-Rank Labyrinth achieved absolute supremacy. I stepped off my massive throne and walked toward the crying king. I grabbed his jeweled crown and crushed it into fine golden dust. The sharp metal shards fell slowly onto his trembling shoulders. I do not need a useless monarch taking up space in my dark maze. I opened a dimensional rift directly beneath his shaking knees. System log. Royal bloodline successfully erased from the world. He fell silently into the endless void of my deepest prison cell. Now I can focus entirely on assimilating the rest of the capital. I expanded my sensory network to cover every single stone street. Terrified citizens tried to run away from the falling buildings. I simply shifted the city layout to turn all roads into dead ends. System alert. Urban environment converted into a dark labyrinth. Giant obsidian walls rapidly grew out of the cracked stone roads. The entire human capital was quickly swallowed by my architecture. I sealed off the sky above them with a dome of solid black rock. They are now permanent residents of my infinite dark domain. They will generate a constant stream of fear energy for my core. System log. Infinite energy generation cycle fully established. I closed my eyes and listened to the beautiful sound of pure fear. My minotaur body pulsed with the combined power of million souls. There are still many other kingdoms left to conquer on this world. I will stretch my deep roots across the entire global landmass. The whole world will eventually become one single infinite maze. System alert. Global assimilation protocol is ready for launch. I initiated the global assimilation sequence without delay. Massive obsidian roots plunged deep into the planetary core. The intense geothermal heat fueled my rapid expansion rate. System log. Planetary core energy tapping is successful. I directed my thick underground tendrils toward the ocean. The cold salt water boiled violently upon touching my stone. Thick white steam instantly covered the entire sea surface. My roots carved massive trenches across the dark ocean floor. System alert. Deep submarine territory is fully integrated. Giant tsunami waves crashed heavily against the eastern shores. I felt the ancient magical barrier of the elven continent. They use a giant world tree to protect their forest borders. This pathetic wooden shield will easily break under my force. System log. High-density organic magic detected ahead. I slammed my thick, heavy roots directly into their barrier. The green magical shield violently repelled my initial strike. I felt a massive surge of kinetic recoil hit my central core. The defensive magic is surprisingly dense and highly elastic. I need to change my brute force approach for this obstacle. System alert. Tactical adaptation sequence is now active. I converted the tips of my roots into sharp spinning drills. The rapidly rotating obsidian generated intense thermal heat. I drove the massive stone drills back into the green shield. Sparks of raw magical energy flew violently into the dark sea. The intense friction slowly melted the ancient organic barrier. A deafening, cracking sound echoed across the entire continent. System log. Elven territorial defense barrier is shattered. My underground roots instantly flooded into their rich soil. I greedily absorbed the massive amounts of pure natural mana. The ancient forest above began to rapidly wither and die out. Tall green trees instantly turned into brittle gray dead wood. I pushed my labyrinth structures straight out of the dry dirt. System alert. Surface invasion of the forest has commenced. Thousands of elite elven rangers rushed to the breaking point. They fired glowing green arrows at my rising obsidian walls. The magical projectiles shattered uselessly against the stone. Heavy stone pillars shot out from the newly formed walls. The massive blunt force slammed directly into their front line. Dozens of elven warriors were violently thrown into the air. They crashed hard against the dying trees and lost consciousness. System alert. Enemy vanguard unit has been neutralized. I expanded the dungeon floor to swallow their fallen bodies. I dragged them deep underground into my new holding cells. Their rich magical blood will serve as excellent core fuel. I focused my attention on the massive glowing tree far ahead. System log. Primary target acquired in the central zone. The giant world tree towered thousands of feet into the sky. Its massive golden leaves radiated intense, pure solar energy. I can feel the immense power flowing through its thick trunk. This organic structure is essentially a massive natural core. I must consume it to achieve the next stage of my evolution. System alert. Core assimilation protocol is fully prepared. I commanded my massive underground roots to surround the tree. The earth violently shook as my obsidian breached the surface. A circle of giant black spikes formed around the golden trunk. The Elven High Council suddenly teleported directly before me. 10 ancient mages floated gracefully in the turbulent air. They chanted a complex spell to awaken the sleeping tree god. System log. Divine summoning magic detected in the area. I cannot allow them to complete this dangerous incantation. I snapped my thick fingers to manipulate the local gravity. The invisible kinetic force slammed down on the floating mages. They crashed violently into the hard dirt with a loud thud. Their complex magical chant was instantly broken by the impact. I spawned heavy stone slabs to pin their bodies to the ground. System alert. Enemy spellcasting is successfully stopped. Despite my quick interruption, the giant tree began to vibrate. The ancient roots of the world tree tore through the topsoil. Massive wooden tendrils whipped aggressively through the air. One giant branch slammed directly into my rising black spikes. The sheer kinetic impact shattered my solid obsidian barrier. I felt a sharp sting of physical recoil in my central core. System log. Structural damage detected in the outer ring. This giant plant possesses incredible raw physical strength. I teleported my massive Minotaur body directly to the front line. My heavy hooves cracked the dry earth as I landed perfectly. I cracked my thick knuckles and prepared for a brutal fight. The giant tree sensed my overwhelming dark dungeon presence. System alert. SSS-Rank organic threat is fully engaged. Dozens of thick wooden vines shot rapidly toward my chest. I hardened my dark skin to the maximum possible density level. The sharp wooden tips struck my chest with explosive force. They completely failed to pierce my thick magical outer shell. I grabbed the massive vines with my bare muscular hands. I pulled them violently forward with all my immense strength. System log. Kinetic grappling maneuver highly successful. The massive pulling force uprooted a large section of the tree. A deafening crack echoed as the thick wooden trunk splintered. Golden sap poured rapidly from the massive open plant wound. The rich liquid burned the dry ground with intense holy heat. I ignored the dangerous heat and charged directly at the trunk. My heavy shoulder slammed into the ancient wood like a meteor. System alert. Devastating physical impact fully delivered. I channeled all my core energy into my right heavy foot. I delivered a crushing downward stomp onto the exposed core. The massive kinetic force instantly pulverized the golden wood. System alert. Enemy central core is completely destroyed. The giant world tree collapsed heavily onto the ruined earth. A massive cloud of golden dust filled the entire battlefield. I immediately deployed my dungeon roots to consume the remains. Thick black tendrils wrapped tightly around the fallen trunk. I aggressively drained the ancient solar energy into my core. My massive Minotaur body began to undergo a violent mutation. System log. Organic integration process is currently active. Glowing golden veins appeared alongside my original blue cracks. Thick wooden armor plates grew over my dark obsidian scales. My physical resilience increased to an absolute godlike level. I can now manipulate both solid stone and living plant matter. This new power makes my labyrinth completely unpredictable. System alert. SSS-Rank. Labyrinth evolution is now complete. The golden dust slowly cleared from the devastated landscape. A single figure stood completely unharmed in the deep crater. The supreme elven queen glared at me with pure, absolute hatred. She held a slender, glowing rapier forged from pure starlight. Her magical aura felt incredibly dense and highly compressed. System log. Demigod-class entity detected in the dead zone. She instantly vanished from my direct line of physical sight. She appeared right behind my back in a single quick flash. The glowing rapier thrust violently toward my thick, dark neck. System alert. Lethal high-speed attack is fast approaching. I instantly shifted the space around my neck to avoid the hit. I spun around and swung my massive wooden arm at her head. She gracefully backflipped away from my heavy kinetic strike. I stomped my heavy hoof and activated my new organic powers. Millions of sharp wooden spikes erupted from the entire floor. She desperately leaped from one falling rock to another rock. System alert. Spatial lockdown protocol is fully operational. I manipulated the local gravity to pull her directly downward. She crashed heavily into the dense field of sharp wooden spikes. The blunt kinetic impact knocked the breath right out of her. System log. Demigod entity sustained massive physical damage. I commanded the wooden spikes to wrap tightly around her limbs. The thick organic chains completely immobilized her weak body. She struggled fiercely, but the magical wood absorbed her mana. I slowly walked over to her trapped and heavily bruised form. My massive shadow completely covered her pale, terrified face. I picked up her fallen starlight rapier with my thick fingers. System alert. Divine weapon successfully acquired by the core. I easily snapped the indestructible blade into 2 small pieces. The pure starlight energy flowed directly into my massive chest. She froze completely as I consumed her powerful holy weapon. I opened a deep dimensional rift directly beneath her body. She fell silently into the darkest cell of my endless labyrinth. System log. Supreme Elven ruler successfully captured inside. The entire Elven continent is now completely under my control. I expanded my underground network across the entire green land. Massive obsidian towers replaced their ancient, beautiful cities. The remaining elves were processed into raw energy batteries. My labyrinth now covers 2 massive continents of this world. System alert. Global assimilation progress reached half point. I sat upon my new throne forged from the ancient world tree. Combined power of stone and wood pulsed through my heavy veins. I need to conquer the Dwarven mountains in the frozen far north. They possess advanced magical machinery and deep earth drills. System log. New high-value target identified in the north. I shifted my massive underground routes toward the frozen peaks. The thick permafrost easily shattered under my kinetic pressure. I felt the rhythmic vibrations of massive, heavy steel hammers. The dwarves are desperately building a giant mechanical weapon. They think their pathetic metal gears can stop my perfect maze. I will crush their underground empire from the inside out. System alert. Subterranean invasion protocol is fully active. I breached their lowest mining shafts with explosive force. Thousands of heavy stone golems poured into their deep tunnels. The armored dwarves formed a tight defensive shield wall ahead. They fired heavy explosive shells from their shoulder cannons. System log. Heavy artillery bombardment detected in the mines. The massive explosions destroyed several of my frontline golems. I absorbed the broken stone directly back into the dungeon floor. I instantly rebuilt the fallen units twice as large and heavy. This underground environment gives me an absolute tactical edge. System alert. Infinite golem regeneration cycle is now active. I manipulated the tunnel walls to completely crush their flanks. The heavy stone ceiling slowly descended upon their tight ranks. Their steel shields buckled under the immense physical pressure. The kinetic force smashed them flat against the cold, hard floor. I did not waste any time interrogating these weak foot soldiers. System log. Enemy defensive line successfully crushed to dust. I pushed my thick roots deeper into their grand mechanical city. Total darkness instantly fell over the massive underground city. Panic spread rapidly among the millions of trapped heavy workers. I sealed off every single escape tunnel with solid black rock. The entire Dwarven race is now locked inside my giant freezer. I will slowly extract their thermal energy until they all freeze. System log. Mass thermal extraction protocol is fully engaged. The Dwarven king charged at me in a massive steam-powered mech. He desperately fired a barrage of heavy armor-piercing missiles. I opened a spatial portal right in front of my massive chest. The deadly missiles flew harmlessly into the endless dark void. System alert. Projectile threat neutralized via spatial void. I opened the exit portal directly behind his giant metal mech. His own heavy missiles slammed violently into his exposed back. The massive kinetic explosion shattered the thick steel plating. I walked forward and ripped the main hatch off the chassis. I tossed his weak body into the dark corner of the ruined room. He hit the hard stone wall and instantly lost all consciousness. The Dwarven continent is now fully assimilated into my core. Only the vast human desert empire remains on this dying planet. I channeled all my gathered power into one massive global strike. The vast human desert empire tried to use ancient sand magic. Millions of tons of hot sand formed into a giant moving storm. I simply increased the local gravity across the entire desert. System log. Regional gravity manipulation is fully operational. The massive sandstorm collapsed under its own immense weight. I converted the fallen sand into highly compressed glass floors. The entire desert was instantly paved over by my dark labyrinth. System alert. Desert territory successfully converted to glass. Millions of massive obsidian pillars erupted across the desert. The burning hot sand was instantly swallowed by my dark stone. System log. Final continental assimilation is expanding fast. The sky turned pitch black as my dungeon roof covered the world. Every living creature is now trapped inside my endless dark maze. I sit upon my massive throne at the exact center of the earth. The entire planet is now fully converted into a giant labyrinth. System alert. Global assimilation is 100% done. My dungeon core pulses with the combined energy of billions. But this single small planet is no longer enough to satisfy me. I can feel the massive magical signatures of the arrogant gods. They watch my perfect dark creation from their high golden realm. I will extend my massive obsidian roots directly into the sky. System log. Celestial invasion protocol is ready for launch. I focused all planetary energy into my central massive core room. A giant pillar of pure dark force shot into the high atmosphere. The sheer physical power shattered the invisible divine barrier. The gods will soon learn the meaning of absolute pure terror. I will turn their golden palaces into my newest dungeon floors. System alert. SSS-Rank Labyrinth is entering the divine realm. The massive dark pillar completely shattered the golden sky. I pulled my heavy physical body upward through the deep rift. The sudden atmospheric shift created a massive sonic boom. System alert. Divine realm atmospheric breach is complete. The pure holy radiation immediately tried to burn my dark scales. I adapted my thick outer shell to absorb the divine energy. The burning hot sensation quickly turned into raw kinetic power. I stepped heavily onto the soft white clouds of their home. The fluffy moisture instantly solidified under my huge mass. System log. Divine terrain successfully converted to stone. Thousands of armored angels flew rapidly toward my position. They wielded heavy spears forged from concentrated starlight. Their coordinated flight formation was mathematically perfect. I do not care about their perfect little divine strategies. I snapped my thick fingers to manipulate the local gravity. System alert. Extreme gravitational field is now deployed. The sudden downward force completely crushed their white wings. Thousands of elite angels plummeted violently from the sky. They crashed heavily into my newly formed solid stone floor. The massive kinetic impact knocked them completely unconscious. I expanded my labyrinth roots to swallow their limp bodies. System log. Angelic Vanguard units successfully assimilated. I commanded the newly formed stone floor to rapidly shift upward. Massive dark obsidian pillars shot directly into the high clouds. The remaining angels were violently crushed against the ceiling. Their bones snapped loudly under the immense physical pressure. I opened small vents to release highly toxic paralyzing gas. The thick purple vapor completely swallowed their tight formations. System alert. Airborne toxins deployed in the first sector. They dropped their weapons and fell rapidly from the high sky. My labyrinth automatically caught them in thick magical nets. Their pure holy energy flowed directly into my central core. My thick Minotaur muscles expanded with terrifying new power. A massive legion of divine chariots charged across the clouds. They were pulled by giant beasts made of pure white lightning. The heavy golden wheels generated intense electrical storms. The deafening thunder echoed across the entire divine realm. I refused to let them build up their maximum charging speed. System alert. Kinetic interception protocol is fully active. I stomped my heavy hooves to raise massive obsidian shields. The thick black walls erupted directly in front of the charge. The divine chariots slammed violently into the solid dark rock. The heavy kinetic recoil instantly shattered their golden carts. The lightning beasts dissipated into harmless static energy. The armored drivers were violently thrown through the cold air. System log. Enemy cavalry charge successfully neutralized. I opened deep traps beneath their rapidly falling bodies. They tumbled silently into the absolute darkness of my maze. This divine realm lacks proper heavy structural defenses. I will gladly provide them with my perfect dark architecture. System alert. Massive architectural conversion is starting. I pushed my thick roots toward the massive glowing river ahead. The golden liquid was actually highly concentrated liquid mana. I plunged my massive dark hands directly into the burning stream. The intense magical heat tried to melt my thick obsidian skin. I simply reversed the thermal flow to absorb the massive heat. System log. Liquid mana absorption process is fully active. A massive deity forged from burning steel emerged from the river. He swung a giant pair of glowing tongs at my thick, dark neck. I caught the heavy burning metal with my bare, muscular hands. The intense divine heat was instantly absorbed by my deep core. System alert. Thermal attack successfully converted to mana. I violently twisted the heavy tongs and shattered his steel arms. The kinetic shockwave sent his body crashing into the dry trench. I stomped my heavy hoof directly onto his glowing metallic head. His thick steel skull caved in under my immense planetary weight. System log. Divine Forge Master successfully neutralized. The glowing river rapidly dried up into a shallow, empty trench. I redirected the stolen energy into my massive underground forge. My automated dungeon systems began crafting new heavy weapons. Thousands of giant stone golems received massive armor upgrades. I deployed my newly upgraded army onto the soft divine clouds. System alert. Heavy divine assault golems are now deployed. Their massive metallic footsteps shook the entire floating realm. They marched forward with terrifying mechanical precision. The remaining angelic defenders desperately fired holy arrows. The glowing projectiles simply bounced off the heavy dark armor. My golems crushed the weak defenders under their massive feet. System log. Enemy defensive perimeter completely destroyed. I walked slowly toward the massive central floating palace. A giant deity clad in heavy platinum armor blocked my main path. He held a giant glowing war hammer crackling with wild lightning. The intense electrical aura melted the stone beneath his feet. System alert. God of War entity detected in the main hall. He swung the massive hammer directly at my thick-horned head. The heavy weapon moved with absolute terrifying supersonic speed. I did not even try to dodge his pathetic electrical strike. I raised my thick left arm to block the massive glowing hammer. The kinetic impact created a blinding flash of pure white light. System log. Extreme physical damage successfully mitigated. The heavy platinum hammer completely shattered against my arm. The god of war stared at his broken weapon in absolute shock. He finally realized that his divine strength is entirely useless. I drove my heavy right fist directly into his armored chest. The massive kinetic force instantly caved in the thick metal. System alert. Critical structural failure in enemy armor. He flew backward and crashed through 7 solid stone walls. The heavy debris buried his broken body under tons of solid rock. Thick dust clouds completely obscured the ruined golden hall. I slowly walked over to the massive pile of shattered dark stone. I easily lifted the heavy boulders with my thick bare hands. The defeated god struggled to breathe through his crushed chest. I placed my heavy hoof directly over his glowing divine heart. System log. Divine core extraction sequence is now active. I pressed down with the combined weight of my entire planet. His glowing chest cavity violently cracked under the pressure. A massive sphere of pure divine energy popped out of his body. I grabbed the glowing core and swallowed it without hesitation. The intense holy power instantly fused with my dark dungeon soul. System alert. Divine entity successfully consumed by host. My massive Minotaur body grew another 10 feet in total height. Thick platinum armor plates naturally formed over my dark scales. I can now manipulate the fundamental laws of divine physics. A sudden wave of pink magical energy washed over my massive form. The solid stone walls dissolved into a peaceful green forest. System log. High-tier cognitive illusion magic detected. She summoned 3 massive dragons made of pure white fire. The giant beasts roared loudly and unleashed a massive heat wave. I refused to waste my time with these pathetic magical constructs. I opened a massive spatial void directly above their hot heads. System alert. High-capacity dimensional rift is fully active. The intense gravity sucked the fire dragons into the dark void. The spatial rift snapped shut and completely erased their bodies. The goddess of wisdom floated gracefully above the fake trees. She foolishly believed she could trap my mind in a dream world. Mental attacks are completely useless against a dungeon core. I simply increased the physical density of my central brain. The intense gravitational pull shattered her pathetic illusion. System alert. Enemy psychological attack completely broken. The fake forest violently shattered like cheap, fragile glass. The goddess fell heavily onto the cold, hard obsidian floor. She gasped for air as my heavy aura crushed her weak lungs. I commanded the floor tiles to wrap around her delicate limbs. She was instantly dragged down into my deepest holding cell. System log. High-priority magical target successfully captured. The remaining lesser gods watched my evolution in pure terror. They tried to open spatial portals to escape my dark domain. I simply locked down the dimensional fabric of the entire realm. System log. Spatial escape routes are completely disabled. The terrified deities were trapped inside my expanding walls. I spawned millions of heavy shadow chains from the dark ceiling. The metallic links wrapped tightly around their glowing limbs. They were violently dragged into the deep bowels of my maze. Their eternal lives will power my labyrinth for endless eons. System alert. Mass divine capture protocol fully executed. I absorbed their grand floating palaces into my heavy structure. The beautiful golden architecture was corrupted into black stone. I replaced their peaceful gardens with massive deadly spike pits. The crystal-clear fountains were filled with highly acidic slime. I deployed thousands of scavenger monsters to patrol the halls. This divine realm is finally starting to look like a real home. System log. Environmental terraforming is 90% done. I turned my attention toward the highest peak of the realm. A massive temple of pure white light sat upon the final hill. The supreme deity waited for me inside that glowing structure. His raw magical pressure caused the surrounding air to boil. System alert. Supreme divine threat detected at the summit. I marched up the golden stairs with heavy and deliberate steps. Each massive footfall cracked the ancient indestructible marble. The supreme deity tried to crush me with absolute divine gravity. The invisible force pushed heavily against my broad shoulders. I simply countered it with the combined mass of my entire planet. System log. Hostile gravitational field successfully negated. The massive kinetic feedback shattered the long golden stairway. I leaped across the massive gap with terrifying physical speed. My heavy Minotaur body crashed directly into the temple doors. The heavy golden gates shattered into a million tiny pieces. The kinetic shockwave destroyed the beautiful crystal windows. System alert. Final boss room has been violently breached. A dozen elite divine guardians formed a tight shield wall ahead. They wore heavy golden armor forged from ancient dying stars. Their massive shields radiated an intense holy energy field. I simply commanded the floor beneath them to rapidly disappear. System log. Structural support completely removed from sector. The heavy guardians fell straight down into a massive deep pit. I filled the deep hole with highly compressed liquid rock. The intense physical pressure crushed their ancient star armor. They were permanently entombed within the solid obsidian floor. System alert. Elite Royal Guard successfully neutralized. The Supreme Deity sat upon a floating throne of pure energy. He possessed no physical body but radiated immense pure heat. He pointed a massive beam of cosmic erasure directly at my chest. System alert. Absolute existence erasure magic is inbound. I cannot absorb a spell designed to delete physical matter. I anchored my massive feet directly into the deep dungeon floor. I summoned the combined gravitational mass of my entire planet. The intense gravity instantly bent the cosmic erasure beam away. The deadly light burned a massive hole through the dark ceiling. System log. Erasure threat neutralized via gravity shift. The Supreme Deity vibrated in absolute pure frustration. He tried to expand his energy field to vaporize my entire maze. I did not give him the time to gather his massive cosmic power. I teleported my heavy platinum body directly above his throne. I channeled all my consumed divine energy into both my fists. System alert. Maximum kinetic output is fully authorized. I slammed both heavy hands down onto his glowing energy core. The massive physical impact destabilized his pure magical form. The kinetic shockwave completely leveled the entire Grand Temple. His formless body violently shattered into thousands of shards. I opened my massive jaws and inhaled the scattered cosmic light. System log. Supreme Divine Core successfully assimilated. The pure power of creation flowed through my thick, dark veins. My core merged perfectly with the Supreme Cosmic Engine. I now hold absolute total control over this entire universe. The golden sky above me instantly turned into solid black stone. The entire divine realm is now just the top floor of my maze. System alert. Universal assimilation protocol is now active. I expanded my sensory network across the endless dark void. Millions of distant stars registered as new energy sources. I projected my massive dungeon routes through the fabric of space. The thick obsidian tendrils wrapped around the nearest red sun. I violently drained the massive stellar energy into my deep core. System log. Class 9 stellar object successfully consumed. The dying star instantly collapsed into a massive black hole. I stabilized the gravity well to create a massive portal room. This dark portal connects all future galaxies to my labyrinth. I turned my attention to a highly populated alien planet nearby. They possess advanced technology and massive space battle fleets. System alert. High-tech civilization detected in Sector 4. Their pathetic laser weapons are completely useless against me. I teleported my heavy Minotaur body onto their main homeworld. My heavy hooves crushed their metal cities into absolute dust. I converted their mechanical planet into a new dungeon floor. System log. Technological assimilation is operating perfectly. I will stretch my thick obsidian roots across the entire galaxy. Every single planet will eventually become a new dungeon room. The infinite cosmos will be perfectly organized within my walls. System log. Galactic expansion sequence is ready for launch. I sat heavily upon my new throne of pure cosmic dark matter. The universe is finally ready to experience absolute order. I closed my glowing red eyes and began the final construction. System alert. SSS-Rank Labyrinth achieved universal supremacy. I pushed my massive cosmic roots deeper into the endless void. The thick, dark tendrils easily pierced the fabric of deep space. Thousands of nearby solar systems were instantly pulled inside. System log. Multistellar gravitational capture is successful. A massive alien dreadnought fired a dark singularity torpedo. The heavy weapon created a localized black hole near my arm. The intense gravitational pull tried to tear my thick body apart. System alert, extreme spatial distortion detected in sector. I simply increased my own physical density to fully counter it. I reached out and grabbed the singularity with my bare hand. I violently crushed the black hole into a tiny harmless marble. System log. Hostile gravitational anomaly is fully neutralized. I flicked the highly compressed marble back at their flagship. The heavy kinetic impact completely shattered their main shields. The tiny dark marble pierced straight through the heavy hull. System alert. Enemy command vessel sustained critical damage. The flagship violently exploded in a massive blinding flash. The resulting shockwave destroyed thousands of smaller fighters. I manipulated the local gravity field around their main ships. The intense pressure instantly crushed their thick energy shields. Heavy metallic hulls buckled violently under the immense weight. System log. Enemy structural integrity is fully compromised. Their massive dreadnoughts collided heavily into one another. The kinetic shockwaves shattered their complex hyperdrive cores. I opened massive spatial rifts directly beneath their wreckage. Millions of alien soldiers fell silently into my deep dark maze. System alert. Mass biological assimilation is currently active. I absorbed their advanced hyperdrive technology into my systems. My labyrinth walls began to pulse with blue cosmic energy. I can now teleport entire dungeon floors across the vast galaxy. This new mobility makes my expansion rate absolutely terrifying. System log. Spatial relocation protocol is fully operational. A massive biological entity suddenly blocked my expansion path. The giant space leviathan was larger than 3 whole planets. Its thick, glowing scales radiated intense thermonuclear heat. System alert. Class 10 stellar predator detected in sector. The massive beast opened its jaws to consume my dark portal. It unleashed a massive beam of pure, destructive solar energy. I anchored my heavy Minotaur body onto the solid cosmic floor. I raised my thick obsidian arms to block the incoming heat wave. The intense thermal impact pushed me back several heavy miles. System log. Extreme thermal radiation successfully deflected. This giant lizard possesses incredible raw physical power. I teleported my massive form directly above its glowing head. I channeled the weight of dead stars into my heavy right hoof. I delivered a crushing stomp onto its thick, armored skull. System alert. Devastating kinetic strike successfully delivered. The kinetic force instantly shattered its thick bone plates. The giant leviathan roared silently in the cold vacuum of space. The giant leviathan wrapped its massive tail around my neck. The thick, sharp scales ground heavily against my platinum armor. The intense friction generated massive sparks of cosmic energy. System log. Extreme physical constriction detected on main host. I flexed my thick neck muscles and easily broke its tight grip. I drove my heavy right knee directly into its soft underbelly. The massive blunt force ruptured its internal thermal organs. System alert. Massive internal damage successfully inflicted. Golden radioactive blood violently spewed from its giant mouth. The burning liquid rapidly melted the surrounding dead asteroids. I ignored the intense heat and grabbed its massive heavy jaws. System log. Hostile biological weapon is physically restrained. I pulled my heavy muscular arms apart with absolute strength. The thick bone hinges snapped loudly in the cold, silent vacuum. I completely tore its giant glowing head into 2 heavy pieces. System alert. Class 10 stellar predator is fully eliminated. I immediately expanded my dungeon roots to wrap around its body. The thick, dark tendrils aggressively drained its stellar energy. Its massive glowing body quickly turned into cold gray stone. I converted its massive skeleton into a new heavy defensive wall. System log. Stellar predator successfully assimilated to core. My dark labyrinth now covers the entire known physical universe. Every single star and planet is perfectly locked inside my walls. The massive cosmic structure generates infinite amounts of mana. System alert. Universal energy capacity reached absolute max. But this single dimension is too small for my grand ambition. I focused all my gathered cosmic power into my central dark core. I fired a massive concentrated beam of pure kinetic force outward. The immense physical pressure violently tore the local reality. System log. Dimensional boundary successfully breached by host. A massive glowing rift opened directly in front of my throne. Intense waves of pure antimatter flooded into my dark maze. The strange negative energy tried to erase my solid stone walls. I quickly adapted my obsidian structure to absorb the damage. System alert. Antimatter resistance protocol is fully active. 3 massive figures stepped slowly out of the glowing rift. They were entirely composed of highly compressed dark void energy. Their sheer physical presence caused the local space to warp. System log. Multiversal warden entities detected in main hall. They raised their heavy featureless hands to cast a joint spell. A massive sphere of absolute erasure formed rapidly between them. I cannot allow them to unleash this dangerous multiversal attack. I stomped my heavy hoof and manipulated the cosmic gravity field. System alert. Extreme gravitational distortion is now deployed. The sudden intense pressure collapsed their dark erasure sphere. The resulting kinetic shockwave violently threw them backward. They crashed heavily against my solid, indestructible dark walls. I charged forward with terrifying and absolute physical momentum. System log. High-speed kinetic assault successfully initiated. I grabbed the first Void Warden by its thick, formless, dark neck. I slammed its massive body directly into the hard obsidian floor. The immense kinetic impact destabilized its central energy core. It instantly shattered into millions of harmless glass shards. System alert. First multiversal target successfully destroyed. The second warden pulled out a massive blade of pure white light. It swung the heavy weapon directly at my thick armored shoulder. I hardened my platinum scales to the maximum possible density. The glowing blade violently bounced off my thick outer shell. System log. Extreme physical defense maneuver highly effective. I drove my heavy right fist straight through its glowing chest. The massive kinetic force collapsed its internal dark structure. Its massive body folded inward and vanished from reality. System alert. Second multiversal entity is fully neutralized. The final warden desperately tried to retreat into the open rift. I simply shifted the spatial coordinates of my entire main room. The glowing escape portal instantly closed right behind its back. It turned around and stared at my massive form in absolute fear. System log. Enemy escape route is now permanently disconnected. I slowly walked toward the trembling entity with heavy, loud steps. My massive shadow completely enveloped its weak and pathetic body. I placed my heavy dark hand directly over its glowing face. I aggressively extracted the pure void energy from its deep core. System alert. Multiversal energy absorption is fully active. The warden collapsed onto the solid floor as a lifeless gray husk. I absorbed the empty shell directly into my massive labyrinth. The new multiversal energy violently mutated my massive dark body. System log. Host evolution to multiversal tier has now begun. My thick obsidian scales turned into pure, transparent dark glass. I can now clearly see the infinite flow of alternate timelines. My labyrinth automatically expanded through the broken, torn rift. System alert. Multiversal assimilation protocol is fully ready. I pushed my massive cosmic roots directly into the multiverse. Thousands of parallel universes were pierced by my heavy stone. I forcefully injected my dark architecture into their worlds. System log. Parallel reality integration is operating perfectly. An entire dimension made of pure liquid fire tried to burn me. I altered the fundamental laws of thermodynamics in that realm. The burning infinite ocean instantly froze into solid red ice. System alert. Hostile thermal dimension is fully neutralized. I shattered the frozen reality and absorbed the massive chunks. My labyrinth gained the absolute power of absolute zero cold. I created millions of new deadly frozen floors to trap my prey. System log. Cryogenic dungeon sector is now fully operational. A massive mechanical universe launched a coordinated counterattack. Trillions of heavy androids marched through my open dark portals. They fired highly concentrated beams of pure destructive matter. System alert. Multiversal synthetic threat detected in sector. I did not even bother to physically block their pathetic fire. I manipulated the local magnetic fields across the entire room. The intense magnetic force instantly crushed their metal bodies. System log. Synthetic enemy forces completely crushed to dust. I melted their ruined heavy chassis into pools of liquid steel. I forged the molten metal into millions of heavy automated traps. Their own advanced technology will now serve my endless dark maze. System alert. Mechanical assimilation sequence is now complete. The supreme creator of the mechanical dimension showed himself. He was a giant floating brain encased in heavy, dark, thick armor. He tried to hack directly into my central dungeon core systems. System log. Hostile cybernetic intrusion detected in main core. My mind is an infinite labyrinth of pure, absolute dark chaos. His pathetic logical algorithms were instantly lost in my maze. The massive cognitive feedback violently overloaded his network. System alert. Enemy processing unit successfully destroyed. His heavy armored shell crashed heavily onto the obsidian floor. I stepped forward and crushed his metallic casing with my hoof. I extracted his vast multiversal knowledge directly into my core. System log. Supreme multiversal intelligence fully integrated. A massive council of cosmic architects gathered in the void. They are the ancient beings who construct the fabric of reality. They viewed my expanding labyrinth as a massive, deadly cancer. System alert. Multiversal creator entities are fully mobilized. They combined their infinite power to build a giant dark prison. Massive walls of pure, absolute order surrounded my thick roots. The intense pressure of pure creation tried to crush my stones. System log. High-density structural containment is now active. They foolishly believe they can outbuild the ultimate core. I simply analyzed the fundamental blueprints of their prison. I found the tiny microscopic structural flaws in their design. System alert. Critical architectural weaknesses are identified. I focused all my kinetic energy into a single massive strike. I slammed my heavy fist directly into the weakest central point. The heavy kinetic shockwave completely shattered the solid wall. System log. Absolute containment barrier is fully destroyed. The ancient cosmic architects gasped in pure absolute terror. I expanded my massive labyrinth directly into their domain. Millions of thick obsidian spikes erupted from the empty void. System alert. Neutral multiversal zone is fully under attack. The heavy spikes violently pierced their glowing energy bodies. They desperately tried to rewrite the local laws of reality. I simply anchored the space with my absolute infinite weight. System log. Reality manipulation attempts successfully blocked. I commanded the heavy stone spikes to drain their life force. Their pure creative energy flowed directly into my central core. The ancient beings slowly withered into pathetic empty husks. System alert. Cosmic architect entities completely assimilated. I absorbed their massive grand blueprints into my deep database. I now possess the ultimate knowledge to construct new realities. My dark labyrinth is no longer just a massive physical prison. System log. Labyrinth existential purpose is fully redefined. I am the absolute fundamental structure of all known dimensions. Every single timeline naturally flows directly through my halls. I sit heavily upon my massive throne at the center of eternity. System alert. Ultimate omniversal integration is now complete. There are no more arrogant gods or heroes left to challenge me. The endless infinite cosmos is finally perfectly organized. I close my glowing red eyes and listen to the hum of my domain. System log. Absolute omniversal supremacy is fully secured. The absolute silence of my omniverse lasted for a brief moment. A massive spatial tremor violently shook my central dark throne. System alert. Outer boundary structural anomaly is detected. The infinite black stone walls began to slowly turn pure white. I immediately shifted my cosmic perception toward the deep edge. A massive ocean of pure absolute nothingness crashed against me. The heavy kinetic impact completely bypassed my physical armor. System log. Non-physical conceptual attack is fully active. I anchored my massive heavy hooves into the central floor tiles. The intense erasure wave tried to delete my core existence. I simply increased the absolute density of my personal reality. System alert. Reality stabilization protocol is highly active. The massive white wave violently shattered against my dark aura. The resulting shockwave completely erased 3 nearby galaxies. I rebuilt the destroyed physical sectors with a simple thought. System log. Automatic environmental restoration is successful. A massive deep crack suddenly opened in the absolute outer wall. Intense blinding white light flooded into my perfectly dark maze. The strange illumination carried 0 thermal heat or radiation. System alert. Unknown conceptual energy detected in the maze. The strange white light began to slowly bleach my dark stone. My heavy traps were instantly reduced to pure, harmless dust. System log. Internal structural corruption is spreading fast. I immediately isolated the infected sector from the main core. I dropped massive quarantine doors forged from pure dark matter. The intense physical lockdown contained the strange white light. System alert. Emergency quarantine protocol is fully active. I flooded the isolated room with highly concentrated dark acid. The extreme chemical reaction violently boiled the white energy. The corrupted zone was completely sterilized in a few moments. System log. Conceptual sterilization is successfully complete. Millions of formless white entities poured through the deep crack. They possessed no physical mass and radiated zero thermal heat. These pathetic blank creatures exist outside of all known logic. System log. Physical kinetic damage is completely ineffective. I commanded my heavy obsidian traps to crush their white bodies. The massive stone blocks simply passed right through their forms. They continued to float silently toward my central dark core. System alert. Hostile entities are bypassing solid defenses. I refuse to let any entity ignore my massive heavy dark maze. I recalibrated the fundamental physics of the massive outer zone. I injected pure dark gravity directly into their formless bodies. System alert. Conceptual gravity injection is fully successful. The sudden intense mass forced them into a solid physical state. They fell heavily onto the cold surface of my solid stone floor. Their new solid bones snapped under the immense physical weight. System log. High priority target elimination sequence active. I opened massive deep pits completely filled with burning acid. The white entities screamed as the thick liquid melted them. They desperately tried to shift back into their formless state. I locked their quantum coordinates to maintain their solid mass. System alert. Quantum coordinate lock is operating perfectly. I absorbed their strange blank energy directly into my deep core. My massive Minotaur body adapted to the pure, absolute blankness. I can now manipulate the empty spaces between all realities. System log. Void manipulation skill successfully integrated. I commanded the heavy stone floor to rapidly consume their mass. The thick, dark rock aggressively swallowed the melting white goo. I converted their unique essence into a new heavy defense layer. System alert. Conceptual armor plating is fully operational. A massive towering figure emerged from the deep white outer void. It wielded a giant scythe forged from pure conceptual erasure. The heavy weapon deleted the space around its massive sharp edge. System alert. Absolute deletion entity detected in Sector 1. It swung the massive scythe directly at my thick armored neck. I did not even attempt to dodge the terrifying conceptual strike. I raised my heavy right hand to catch the massive sharp blade. The absolute erasure magic violently collided with my thick palm. System log. Extreme conceptual damage successfully mitigated. The giant white entity stared at my undamaged hand in pure shock. It failed to understand that I am the fundamental rule of mass. I violently twisted the massive scythe and shattered the handle. The kinetic shockwave completely destroyed its heavy right arm. System alert. Enemy structural integrity is fully compromised. I drove my heavy left fist directly into its blank white face. The immense physical pressure instantly caved in its empty skull. It collapsed heavily onto the cold stone of my labyrinth floor. I placed my massive heavy hoof directly over its broken chest. System log. Primordial void core extraction is fully active. I pressed down with the combined weight of the entire Omniverse. Its hollow chest cavity cracked violently under the huge pressure. A massive sphere of pure anti-existence popped out of its body. I grabbed the strange, glowing core and swallowed it immediately. System alert. Primordial void entity successfully consumed. My thick obsidian muscles expanded with terrifying new mass. I can now passively erase any physical matter touching my skin. The intense white light from the deep crack began to rapidly dim. System log. Hostile environmental pressure is fully negated. The destruction of the void core triggered a massive reaction. The fundamental concepts of death and time tried to rebel. They manifested as twin storms of pure destructive dark energy. System log. Internal conceptual rebellion detected in core. I ignored their pathetic attempt to overthrow my absolute rule. I am the physical embodiment of the entire endless structure. I flexed my massive, thick Minotaur muscles to assert dominance. System alert. Absolute conceptual suppression is now active. The intense physical pressure instantly crushed the twin storms. I forced the concept of death to bind tightly to my dark traps. I forced the concept of time to completely freeze in my walls. System log. Rebellious concepts are successfully subjugated. I stepped aggressively through the deep crack in the outer wall. I entered a massive, endless white room devoid of physical matter. There was absolutely no gravity or oxygen in this empty space. System alert. Extreme atmospheric absence detected in sector. I generated my own massive personal gravity and thermal zone. The intense dark energy radiated heavily from my massive core. I walked slowly across the pure, absolute nothingness of the void. Each heavy footstep created a brand new, solid, dark stone tile. System log. Automatic spatial terraforming is operating well. I am literally building my massive maze across the blank canvas. Millions of hostile white anomalies tried to block my dark path. I did not even bother to physically strike their pathetic forms. System alert. Passive existence erasure aura is fully active. They dissolved into harmless dust upon touching my massive body. I continued my relentless heavy march toward the absolute center. The pure white emptiness began to violently vibrate and shake. System log. Massive structural instability detected ahead. A giant mechanical loom sat heavily at the center of the void. System log. The primordial engine of creation is now located. Millions of glowing golden threads flowed from the heavy machine. These fragile little strings weaved the basic fabric of reality. An ancient caretaker made of pure light guarded the heavy loom. He raised a massive glowing staff to halt my aggressive march. System alert. Ultimate reality manipulator detected in sector. He tried to rewrite my personal timeline using the thin threads. I felt a slight temporal pressure pushing against my dark scales. I simply anchored my massive soul to the absolute present moment. The temporal manipulation magic shattered completely against me. System log. Hostile timeline alteration successfully blocked. I charged forward with terrifying and absolute physical momentum. The ancient caretaker fired massive, heavy beams of pure energy. The intense cosmic heat simply bounced off my thick, heavy armor. I grabbed his glowing, fragile neck with my massive, heavy hand. System alert. High-value target is successfully restrained. I violently slammed his body of light directly into the floor. The kinetic shockwave destabilized his pure, glowing energy form. He instantly exploded into a massive shower of harmless sparks. I turned my absolute attention toward the giant mechanical loom. System log. The primordial caretaker is fully eliminated. The heavy golden machine hummed with infinite raw cosmic power. It desperately tried to weave a brand new heavy energy shield. I stomped my heavy hoof to disrupt the local spatial magic. System alert. Environmental magic disruption is fully active. The thin golden thread snapped under my massive dark pressure. I stepped heavily into the absolute center of the massive loom. The intense gears of creation tried to crush my dark fingers. System log. Extreme mechanical resistance detected in core. I plunged my heavy, thick hands directly into the complex machine. I simply reversed the mechanical rotation with my raw strength. The giant golden loom groaned loudly under my immense heavy mass. System alert. Critical structural failure in creation engine. I violently ripped the massive central core from the heavy loom. The entire white void began to violently shake and rapidly fall. I swallowed the glowing engine core directly into my heavy chest. The absolute power of pure creation fused perfectly with my soul. System log. The ultimate engine of reality is fully absorbed. I expanded my heavy dark roots across the collapsing white void. The thick obsidian tendrils aggressively consumed the empty void. I converted the massive blank space into millions of new floors. System alert. Void terraforming process is operating perfectly. I built massive heavy walls of pure condensed dark matter around. I filled the new empty rooms with highly lethal gravity traps. I spawned endless hordes of cosmic monsters from my thick blood. System log. Infinite monster generation cycle is fully active. The primordial white void is now completely erased from reality. It has been fully replaced by my absolute indestructible maze. System alert. Total existential assimilation is now complete. The pure creation energy violently mutated my massive dark body. My thick dark scales were instantly replaced by solid eternity. My massive curved horns grew to easily pierce massive dark worlds. System alert. Ultimate physical evolution sequence is active. I breathed out a massive thick cloud of highly compressed mana. The dense magical fog turned into thick, heavy, solid dark metal. I equipped the terrifying new gear over my massive heavy chest. System log. Absolute Omniversal armor is fully equipped. I clenched my massive right fist to test the new physical power. The simple kinetic motion completely shattered the local space. I do not need to use complex magic to destroy my weak enemies. System alert. Pure physical kinetic force is now maximized. I decided to test my brand new absolute power of pure creation. I focused my massive cosmic mind on a single empty dark point. I compressed tons of dark matter into a massive solid sphere. System alert. High-density matter compilation is now stable. I injected a tiny drop of my thick dark blood into the sphere. The solid ball cracked violently and hatched into a huge dragon. The terrifying beast possessed scales made of pure solid void. System log. First Omniversal guardian entity is fully born. It bowed its massive heavy head directly toward my dark throne. I commanded it to patrol the deepest layers of my massive home. It roared silently and flew rapidly into the endless dark abyss. System alert. Ultimate defensive perimeter is fully secured. I turned my attention to the massive endless armies of my maze. The standard heavy stone golems are no longer strong enough. System log. Mass unit upgrade protocol is currently active. I infused their heavy dark cores with concentrated cosmic light. Their massive rock bodies violently turned into pure solid iron. They grew massive heavy wings forged from the cold deep space. System alert. Elite void gargoyle units are fully deployed. I assigned millions of these monsters to guard the heavy outer walls. There is absolutely nothing left outside of my massive dark maze. I am the complete totality of all existence and non-existence. But a perfect dungeon requires a constant, endless supply of prey. I refuse to let my massive, beautiful structure sit totally empty. System alert. Boredom mitigation protocol is currently active. I utilized my new creation powers to forge a brand new universe. I populated it with trillions of weak, pathetic biological beings. I gave...
This video and everything in it are completely fictional and original creations by Manhwa. The story is made only for storytelling and entertainment inside a fictional universe. It isn't meant to encourage violence, dangerous actions, or harmful behavior, and nothing in this video should be copied in real life. All characters shown in this work are fictional and are presented as 18 years old or older. This content is made only for entertainment and isn't intended to offend, attack, or harm any person, group, or organization. This channel is more than just entertainment. It's made to share deep ideas, powerful meanings, and valuable insights through stories that make you think and feel in a new way.